Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever in the world you're joining us from. Welcome to the Lloyd's Academy Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa Educational Program for 2024. My name is Shai from the Market Development Team from Lloyd's Asia, our platform in Singapore. Today, our webinar session is about Introduction to Fine Art, presented by Janita Liu from Markel, who will provide us her expert insights on this topic. Janita started the Fine Art and General Specie book for Talbot in Asia Pacific back in 2016, coming from a primarily marine reinsurance background. During 2021, she joined Markel to start their Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa specie book. Whilst for most Lloyd's syndicate, the specie book sits within the Marines practice, the fine art and general species transaction is primarily with property and financial lines intermediaries across the Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa region. A few reminders before we begin. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have throughout the session through the comment box at the right corner of your screen, and we're happy to address them at the end of the presentation. This session will be recorded and uploaded online and will be shared upon request. Also, an important note, to receive your certificate of attendance and claim for CPD hours, please remain until the end of the presentation and complete the feedback form. Lastly, the views and opinions expressed in this webinar are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Lloyd's. The information provided is for general information process purposes only and should not be construed as professional advice. All right, without further ado, I'm very excited to hand over the time to Janita to begin the presentation. Thank you. Janita?
Thank you, Shai. So good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world, as Shai has mentioned. Welcome to my presentation today, which is on the introduction of fine art insurance. Just before I proceed, I'll be turning off my camera just so that you could look at my slides and hopefully pay attention to my voice. Okay, let's begin. This will be today's agenda. We'll be talking about two segments of products, two segments of the collection, two segments of the fine art product at Markel. One we call collections. Under collections, we have four main products. We call them art collection. We call them personal jewelry and luxury timepieces, collectibles, and our classic cars. In summary, before I go through the features, the key features of our four products, I just want to mention what is not in scope. And then we'll go into the key features of the products and end with some risk scenarios for you to consider. The second segment of fine art of fine art under fine art is our exhibition product. Here we will talk about what is in scope rather than what's not in scope, and then run through some of the key features and end with some risk scenarios for you to consider. So our collections segment, I'll briefly run through what's not in scope. bearing in mind this is not an exhaustive list. So what's not in scope are heritage buildings or buildings in general. Not in scope as well is cash and cryptocurrency. Get often asked whether we would insure NFTs. So it's not in scope for today's presentation, mainly because I don't know enough about NFTs and the risk behind them. And then just going down the chain. What's not in scope. However, for the list marked in asterisks, we do make certain exceptions. So this is our first product under our collection segment. We call it collection. Here, the property insured are actually artworks, hence the name art collection. When we talk about this property, we do require a schedule and the corresponding values. This is a sample of the schedule that we would need for us to review the inquiry. Just for your information, you will receive a copy of this PowerPoint presentation if you wish from Shai. In terms of target insureds for our art collection product, we're basically after the owner as a target. It could be an individual or corporation. We usually would need a completed date signed proposal form where we do have to conduct a screening test. This we mean anti-money laundering checks and sanction checks. The period of insurance that we usually would like our proposal to come to us is on an annual basis. In terms of territorial coverage, we do offer various options. Either a name location, or it could be within a name country, or the broadest cover that we would give would be a worldwide cover. Of course, this is subject to certain exclusions and conditions, so on and so forth. That's in our quote. However, the default cover that we tend to give is within name locations or locations. In terms of limit of liability, we often cover up to the total of the values provided in the schedule that I mentioned earlier. So if we look at our sample schedule from earlier, the highlighted is what we mean when we talk about the total limit of liability. The uniqueness of our collections cover is that it is usually a nil deductible policy. Nonetheless, I would like to mention that it does depend on the information that we receive on the completed proposal from the completed proposal form. In terms of cover that we provide, it is an all-risk physical loss of physical damage to the property insured occurring during the period of insurance. These are some examples of the risks that we are covering. I'm sure it's not unfamiliar to most of you who are involved in other more traditional lines of business. However, I would like to highlight accidental risk. This forms most of the reports that we receive from our insureds. We'll be going through some of these accidental risks towards the end of this product information. At all times, I must mention that anything that we cover are subject to exclusions and conditions, warranty endorsements mentioned in the policy. Our product, insofar as our art collection product is concerned, these are the standard exclusions that are written in our policy. It is actually an exhaustive list. So what you see here are the exclusions that you will see in our policy as well. I just want to highlight the ones in yellow are probably and how they are applicable to our art collection product. What do we mean by our other insurance exclusions? Here, we're really stating that if there is a more specific policy that covers the event, the risk, it won't be covered underneath our art collection policy. Believe it or not, artworks do require maintenance and even undergo cleaning once in a while. When this process is being undertaken, any loss or damage as a result of this cleaning or maintenance would not be a covered risk underneath our product. We have an unattended vehicles exclusion, which is also, which basically means that where any artworks are being moved in transit within a vehicle, if it's left unattended, the policy will not respond. We do have artworks which have some mechanism within the nature of the artworks. Any breakdown or fault in the mechanics of these artworks would generally not be covered. And in general, we don't cover anything that is non-accidental in nature. Here we refer to basically something that is pre-existing. Our policy is not a consequential loss policy. So if there is any loss of profit or appreciation in the value other than declared to us and written into the policy, it would not be covered underneath our policy. And just in terms of liability, so artworks, if they fall and they injure your guest or individuals in your home, this policy would not cover any potential legal liability or injury to the third party. Moving on to the basis of valuation. Here, what we mean by basis of valuation is the amount that we will pay in the event of loss or damage to the policy. So in the event here, the artworks are lost or damaged or destroyed, we will pay the corresponding value stated in the schedule, which is provided by our insurers. Looking at the previous schedule sample that I gave you, the highlighted is what we mean by the corresponding value of each artwork. If it's not a complete, if the artwork is not completely destroyed, here we mean a partial damage, the policy would pay for, or we will pay for, the cost and an expense in restoring this the artwork, damaged artworks. And the uniqueness about the fine art policy is that we will pay for any resultant depreciation in value after restoration. Here, I will highlight that the resulting depreciation amount will be paid after the artwork is restored and not before. At all times, we will pay up to the corresponding value of each artwork. And if we were to pay the amount in full, we will become the full owners and reserve the right to take possession of the damaged artwork. Conditions. Conditions are important, as you know, in most policies, because if they are not complied with, we reserve the right to deny any claim. Our conditions are no different from other traditional insurance products available in the market. However, I like to highlight those which are unique to the art collection policy. Here, transits. If the selection of territorial coverage is on a countrywide or worldwide basis, we do require, as a condition under the policy, that competent professional packers are used. When we mean competent, we mean what we mean by competent and professionals are basically logistic companies that carry out art packing and transits. We have an acquisition cost, which means that the policy automatically covers any new acquisitions by our insured. However, this needs to be informed to us within a certain period of time, which is written on the slide, and consequent additional premium would have to be paid. We have a protections maintenance clause. This states that any physical protections, here we mean fire alarms or security alarms of the named location, which is informed to us or written in the proposal form and written in the policy, are engaged at all times, especially when the premises are left unattended. We have a recovered property condition. What that means is that we allow the insured to buy back any artworks that are lost or damaged. This could be recovered property, stolen property, which we have paid the insured in full when it was lost. Should we recover them? The insured be entitled to buy back this recovered artworks from us. Likewise, if artworks were totally destroyed, totally damaged, and we chose to restore this damage, and thereafter the insured would like to purchase, like to buy back this restored artwork, is fully entitled to purchase. In most cases, we have a warranty for artworks and that they should not be kept outdoors. We do provide certain endorsements into our product. The most common of which is a pairs or set clause. Some artworks do come in pairs or a set. We need to modify our wording to allow for those pairs and sets. Sometimes we get additional requests from our insureds to extend coverage, or where the policy allows the client, the insured opts for a wider cover, such as a worldwide cover, we need to enhance the policy, and this will be done by way of endorsing the policy. So as an example, if worldwide option is taken up, we do need to extend or endorse the policy to include the institute clauses. Just for information, institute clauses are marine clauses. This is to cover any eventuality when the artworks are being moved or shipped by air or by sea. We often get asked by our clients, our potential clients, what our experiences are. Who are our clients? We always mention to them that we currently do have some of the top 200 collectors in the world. So moving on, and just wrapping up, I'd like to show you some of the scenarios, some of the risk scenarios that has happened underneath our collection book. The first scenario was the Beirut explosion. Some of you might be familiar with the event back in August 2020. So the red dot, this picture was taken before the explosion. So the red dot behind a bunch of silos is where the explosion took place. According to the media, the cause of the explosion was because of ammonium nitrate stored at the port, which exploded due to a fire at the port. So for this event, would it be a trigger underneath our art collection policy? I'm sure the answer is obvious. According to the news, about 15 billion worth of, that's dollars, 15 billion worth of property damage was incurred as a consequence of this event. I'd like to mention that during my visit to Beirut last year, we met a few clients, and they've told us that their artworks were damaged consequent of this event. So if we were insuring these clients before the event or over the course of this event, we have no doubt that we will be liable for any damages, for restoration costs and expense, and resultant depreciation in value after restoration. The second scenario, this is one of our clients, which has quite an extensive collection. He suffered water damage to his paintings, which were actually stored in a cupboard. These were the total number of paintings that were damaged and their values. So he discovered them at a certain date. When we sent in the surveyors, the findings was that the water damage was consequent on a blockage in the air conditioning drainage pipe, which meant the water leaked onto the contents in the cupboard, which was just below the air conditioning piping. This is quite a common problem or damage that we see occurring, especially in this part of the world, given the extremely hot weather that we have most time of the year. So fortunately, it wasn't completely lost. The paintings, we found some restorers, and this was the quoted cost of restoring. Also, the restorers that we found were located in the same country as our insured. So we didn't have to incur expense of shipping the artworks specifically for restoration. At the same time, this was according to the client at the time, according to the insured at the time, the potential depreciation in value that we would be liable for all 13 paintings that were damaged after restoration. So just before I finish here, we were quite fortunate that the restorers that the client contacted or were happy to appoint gave us a bit of discount for restoring all the 13 pieces of painting. And after the 13 paintings were restored, the client decided not to claim for depreciation in value. So the final quantum of loss was actually much less than the 700,000 that you see in total here. So moving on, we like to share with you our second product underneath collections. We call it the personal jewelry and luxury timepieces. No surprise here that the property insured underneath our second product jewelry and luxury watches. Here we specifically mention wearable jewelry and luxury watches. Again, we require a schedule and the corresponding value. This is a sample schedule that we received from one of our clients. Probably guess the country of residence from the currency. The target insured for this particular product is actually the owner, so the individual or individuals. Again, here we need a completed dated signed proposal form. It has to be completed, it has to be dated, it has to be signed. And we again conduct screening on all our potential insureds. Again, the period of cover, period of insurance that we're offering is on an annual basis. In terms of territorial coverage, we have a few options. Most of the time, it's in the home safe or it's in a deposit box in a bank. Or we can cover it whilst it's in either locations. At all times, we need home safe details, which must be satisfactory to us. We offer an extension to the standard coverage, territory coverage. Here, we specifically mean out of safe, including worldwide coverage. What we mean by out of safe, including worldwide coverage, is mentioned in our jewelry endorsement, and we will be going through that shortly. What we mean when we give cover for out of safe and worldwide. Again, the limit of liability, our liability, is up to the total value or values provided in the schedule. So the same schedule that I showed you earlier, the highlighted is what we mean by our limit of liability, which is really the total of all the items listed. For where the extension is required, the out of safe and worldwide cover is selected. The limit of liability is usually based on the highest single value in the same schedule that I showed you. You'll see that 200,000 is the highest single item on the list, and that is usually the limit that we provide underneath the extension for worldwide cover. Deductible for our default cover, which is basically in a home safe or in a bank locker, is nil, very similar to our artworks policy. However, for extensions, we do have to apply a deductible, and this is the standard deductible that we have to apply for worldwide extensions. It's 10% of the loss amount, subjected to a minimum of 1,005 in the currency of the schedule list. In our sample, in our previous schedule sample, the currency mentioned was in AED. So for for this sample insured with the sample schedule, the minimum would be AED 1,500. In terms of cover and conditions, I'm not going to go through it here specifically for our second product because it is exactly the same as the coverage conditions and basis of valuation as our art collection product. However, I mentioned earlier that I will speak on the jewelry endorsement. So the jewelry endorsement is applicable when the worldwide cover or out of safe, NOR out of safe extension is selected. Here, the jewelry endorsement will state that cover is effective, subject to the property being worn, or it's in your hands and under the supervision at all times, or it's in a lock safe. And if the house, the name location is unattended, safe keys need to be removed from the unattended location. We do require the property insured to be maintained to ensure that nothing is loose or falls off, drops off on its own. And we would require some of these proof in the event of a claim submission. Just some noteworthy clients of ours mentioned on the slide. Again, would like to wrap up our product 2 with showing you some scenarios of incidents that have come across. This is a case of condensation, water condensation on the watch face. This actually happened to me last year. And I immediately took it to the service center, left it there. A few days later, they call me up, or they call me to go back in. And they told me that basically the condensation happened because there was water seeping into the dial. And this could have happened in 2 ways. And the first could be that the crown, so the knob on the side of the watch, was not closed properly. And incidentally, it was basically wear and tear in some of the components of the crown within the watch that is not visible. So to remedy it, meaning to replace the parts, cleaning and changing the crown, would cost me $2,000. Unfortunately, after going through some of the conditions and the exclusions of the policy earlier, there was no cover for the damages for the bill that I got. The second scenario, if you're wondering what a ring and a beach has to do with each other, a friend of mine, his wife, wore the wedding ring to the beach a few years ago. When she realized it, it was when she got home. She did rush back to the beach, but you can imagine, couldn't find it. So this was she put up the claim to her insurers, not Markel. I think what the point here that I like to mention is whether does one consider this accidental or not. And this is my opinion. I think we will pay for this claim. And in fact, her insurers did pay for this claim. I don't think the intention when she wore her wedding ring to the beach was that she would lose it. But, accidents happen. This is the third scenario. We have an insured. Last year, he was traveling on the train within Europe. It was a rather long journey. And was just the journey himself made him sleepy. He fell asleep on the train. By the time he woke up, he realized that some of his possessions were missing. Again, would this be deemed accidental or non-accidental? And I think the conclusion is it could be either. However, we took a view and decided to pay the claim to the insured. It was only fortunate that the watch that he was wearing was not taken. The possessions that he had on board, his bag, his coat, his scarf, which was all rather expensive, those were taken. Moving on to our third product, we call it the collectibles. Here, what do we mean by collectibles? It's a very wide range. Anything can be a collectible. What's come across our desk have been musical instruments collection, pardon me. We've also come across wine collections. What's often, more often that we see nowadays is actually sports memorabilia. This could be football jerseys, basketball jerseys, sneakers, usually autographed by a key sports individual. Again, we need a scheduled list, similar to the scheduled list that I've shown you in the other two products. Again, the target insured is the owner or the individuals who own these products, own these properties. In terms of territorial coverage, there's a few selection. We do come across smaller collectibles, such as stamp collections. Often these needs to be locked up. And these are the options that we can give underneath, or the clients, our insureds can select underneath our policy. Again, in terms of limit of liability. This is up to the values, total values of the schedule provided. However, in certain cases, we do provide a blanket, meaning that we don't need a schedule list. We can just do a blanket subject to a maximum value defined per item if lost. Deductibles for these do vary. It's not a standard nil deductible option for collectibles because they do range in terms of the actual collection. So dependent on what exactly is the collection, we may or may not apply a deductible. Just before we move on to our final product underneath collections, I just want to mention that for either or both the collectibles and the classic cars, they do have a rather unique set of exclusions and conditions. But in the interest of time, I won't be going through this in too much detail. And also in the interest of time, I won't be going through the classic car product. However, the presentation will be with you for your review. The last segment of collections that we want to go through is our exhibitions. Just quickly, what do we mean by exhibitions here at Markel? Could be anything really. It could be a private or public exhibition. It could be a permanent exhibition, or it could be over a period of time. It can be of all topics. Exhibitions can engage our senses, meaning our sight, sound, smell, and touch. Can be both indoors or outdoors. However, for outdoor exhibitions, we do have specific exclusions that we need to apply. Exhibitions, what's in scope? Actually, most exhibitions are in scope, but what's not in scope is any of the exhibits that I mentioned in the list below. We normally don't do jewelry and watch exhibitions. However, from time to time, we make certain exceptions. For us, exhibitions, under exhibitions, the property insured can be wide-ranging, as earlier mentioned. What's interesting in exhibitions is that we do cover artifacts and archaeological item property. We, of course, can insure any of the collections, property insure underneath our collections, 4 collections products earlier, other than only certain jewelry and luxury watches exhibitions. The insured in this case could be a museum, could be the owner. Here we call it the lender, the person lending the artworks for exhibitions, or it could be the insured, who is the borrower, who is borrowing the property for exhibition. Could also be the organizers or the exhibitors. Here we do again need proposal form completed so that we can do the usual screenings. But at the same time, we need more details on the location of the exhibition. Here we ask for a facility report. The period of exhibitions does vary. We have done exhibitions which last a few hours to exhibitions that go on for longer than 12 months, sometimes even years. They're usually touring exhibitions. The territorial coverage can be purely an exhibition, meaning it's only it's a permanent exhibition, so cover only required when it's in a named location, or it could be temporary, where we cover exhibits from anywhere in the world to the exhibition venue. Again, the limit of liability is usually up to the schedule and up to the schedule provided. In certain cases, we do also provide cover based on limit of liability based on a blanket limit, again subject to a maximum value defined by our insurers. Deductible for exhibitions are by default nil. The cover is similar to our collections product in that it is a no-risk physical loss of physical damage occurring policy. The only difference is that most of the time our cover is specifically on a nail to nail. Why nail to nail? This usually refers to paintings or artworks hung on a wall. So the cover is from the time the artworks leave the hanging device till it finally returns to the original hanging device. Or for
Hi, Janita.
artworks.
So
Hi,
I'm
Shai.
I'm very sorry to cut off your presentation. It is very interesting and would love to know more. However, in the interest of time, we have a lot of very good questions on the chat box. Perhaps maybe we can move on to that one, and then
Is
I'm
it
very
all right?
happy to share the slides afterwards to the participants as well.
Yes, Shai.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Sure.
before we take the Q&A, I just
Sure.
want to put up some scenarios.
Okay.
We'll go through one of them. This
Okay.
is something that happened a few years ago in Taiwan. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find news on this, and it's
Mm-hmm.
happened over time. Basically, a, a boy was viewing this particular piece of painting up close. He accidentally he accidentally tripped and punched a hole fist size through the painting. Um, um, the incident was captured on CCTV footage. So when the claim was presented to the insurers, it was very clear that it was an accidental damage, and the exhibitors, the organizers, the lenders, the owner of the artworks, at the end of the day, put up a claim for restoration costs, and I'm sure there were also a resultant depreciation value. Just to wrap things up. Thank you, Shah.
Thank you. Wow. Those are very good examples. Thank you, Janita. So I'm going through the Q&A. We have so much questions here, and we will take some of them offline, and you can also reach out to us, Lloyd, or to Janita separately. Okay, so good. So some questions we have here. Janita, what is the difference between fine art and applied art? Is applied art also insurable?
So it depends on which specific applied arts we're talking about. Yeah, underneath our collections policy, which we were very, very specific as to what are the items that could be protected. I think more in the exhibition segment, we would look at a variety of applied arts, yeah, but not in our collections product segment. I hope that
Thank you very
answers.
much. Yes, thank you. To go through the next question, as we know, artwork value is appreciated over the years. What should the insured do to ensure they are not underinsured?
here the onus is on the insured to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they are insuring it for the latest
Yes.
latest market value, if you
Mm-hmm.
if you if you if you if you were to use that terminology.
Yeah.
So the onus is on the insured to make sure that he is valuing his artworks and his property to ensure that he's
Mm-hmm.
insuring for the right value. Thank you.
Thank you. And then just something, the one on the rain case, if it's due to the negligent, will that be covered as well? You have mentioned accidental means there was some unforeseen accidents and which have resulted in the loss of the rain.
Yes. So I think here when we look at whether the the loss or the damage is covered underneath our policy, and our policy is a no risk physical loss, physical damage cover, we would
Mm-hmm.
probably go through the exclusions and the conditions um, um, to make sure that they are not specifically excluded or they are not under conditions they are complied with before we decide whether that negligence is accidental or otherwise, and hence whether or not it's covered underneath our policy wording.
All right. Thank you so
Hope
much.
that's broad enough.
Thank you. And I guess we'll just answer one more questions for those that we did not answer. We will take that offline and we will connect with you separately. But for now, the question is, what are the key distribution channels for fine art insurance in Asia currently? Are there any new distribution channels gaining traction?
Um, so at Markel, I can only speak on behalf of Markel. As a Lloyd's underwriters, we transact all our business through intermediaries, including cedants. We currently do not offer our products directly to the client. We at the moment we have no intention of doing that either. So it's mainly intermediaries that we
Okay.
work with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as for myself, to summarize, the very interesting topic of fine art, is there any what just one main key takeaway that you'd like to um impart to our participants today?
So yes, I hope that today's slide and presentation shows that it's not a very complex mm, it's not a complex insurance to take up. I think it's very easy to understand. Um, the structure of the policy that we provide is all presented today, that we mean by the conditions, the exclusions. There's no hidden uh, uh, um, um, or there is other than what you see today, and it will not pop up when you when it will not pop up, or it not will there will be no additional other than dependent on the proposal information that we get back, that you will see. Yeah. So what you see is what you get, is what I'm trying to say when you look at coverage and conditions after today's presentation. What you see today is what you will get.
Thank you very much, Janita. And with that, we have come to the end of the presentation. I would like to thank our brilliant speaker for today, Janita, for sharing her knowledge and expertise with us today. And thank you to our participants as well, who has been very engaging and sending us a lot of questions that we'd love to take offline. And at this point, I am sharing my screen and I've also sent the QR code to the meeting chat for you all to send your feedback and get your certificate of attendance afterward. Again, thank you all so much for attending this session, and we'll see you next week. This Thursday, 3 p.m. on DNO Insurance for Distressed Companies. That's 25th July. I'll see you all, and thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.